It's amazing when you watch some of the vloggers, bloggers, whatever they call themselves on YouTube, and a lot of these guys are kind of centre-right-ish, probably want to be in the Tory party, probably want to have a career in politics, mid-20s, university educated, and they start talking about Tommy. Like they know anything about Tommy. They've never met him. They've never spoken to him. They've probably never looked at his politics. They've probably never done a deep dive into his background or anything about him. They probably don't know that he comes from migrant parents. They probably don't know that the vast majority of his mates when he was growing up were from ethnic minorities, and a large number of those people were also Muslims. They probably don't realise that when Tommy speaks about Islam, he's speaking about a religion and about ideology and not speaking about the people, because they've never bothered to look into his background. I was watching such a podcast last night. I had to turn it off after about 10 minutes, as they give with one hand and take away with the other. In Belfast, we call it talking out of both sides of your mouth. So with this side, you're giving a compliment. With the other side, you're sneering and slandering. Anyway, young kids that are trying to set up YouTube channels that are, wanting to get ahead in politics, I understand it. However, I want to talk about GB News. And fair play, Michelle Dewberry, Patrick Christis. Some of the presenters on GB News have actually got the balls to stand there and call it like it is. Of course, most of those have been sacked, or sacked or disappeared from our screens. We think of the absolutely incredible Mark Stein. Now, obviously, he's got health problems at the minute. A superb journalist, superb presenter, put to the sword by GB News after having a heart attack. Unbelievable. We think about Calvin Robinson, we think about Lawrence Fox, and all the others that have been disappeared from our screens. That Scottish fella, his name escapes me. But anyway, I was watching after our great celebration of St. George's Day on the 23rd, despite the best efforts of certain elements of the Metropolitan Police from the top to the bottom to ruin our day. They didn't succeed. Nobody rose to the bait. Fantastic day, fantastic celebration. I was watching the coverage on GB News. A gentleman called Quentin Letts. Let's look at Quentin Letts. Public school educated, part of the establishment, part of the media establishment, writes for the Daily Mail. He's probably written for loads of other of the big newspapers in Fleet Street. Is it still Fleet Street? Whatever they call it. Loads of the other big newspapers. But he couldn't help himself. Couldn't help himself. On the 23rd, the day that these events happened, when the police literally attacked some middle-aged men and women who were out celebrating St. George's Day, because that's what happened. If you watch the footage, you can see very clearly that the police absolutely tried their best to provoke a response. And again, fair play to the lads and lasses that were there on the ground. They didn't take the bait. In fact, the more influential people in those groups got in and got everybody back and saved the day, and that's got this credit. It's got to be given to those people. So Quentin Letts starts sneering about what's happened on St. George's Day, and then he says this. He talks about Tommy Robinson being at the event, and this is what he calls him. I'm going to quote. He says about Tommy Robinson. He says Tommy Robinson is not a particularly hygienic person. Sorry, fellow. Not a particularly hygienic fellow. I'm just looking on my computer screen, so I've got it on a graphic. Not a particularly hygienic fellow. That's what he says about Tommy. Now, you can say a lot of things about Tommy. Some of them will be true, some of them won't be true. But to call someone unhygienic, what a sneering and disgusting phrase to use. And I've spent, over the last 7 years, spent quite a lot of time with Tommy. And he is one of the best turned out people you will ever meet. He is always dressed immaculately. In fact, I would say the t-shirt that Tommy was wearing on St. George's Day, Quentin, was probably worth more than your suit, your shirt, your tie, your shoes. And if we're going to talk about personal hygiene here, I tell you what, I wouldn't want to be sitting too close to you, Quentin, because you were looking a little bit dishevelled. Maybe the hair hadn't been washed for a while. I don't know. You weren't looking particularly hygienic to me. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say that you're a particularly unhygienic fellow because I don't know you. I haven't sat next to you, haven't been in a room with you. But judging by some of the photographs I've seen on the internet and the way you were turned out, you're on TV, for goodness sake, man. You could have brushed your hair and cleaned your teeth. Not a particularly hygienic fellow. No, Quentin, you ain't a particularly hygienic fellow. Not when you're making comments like that, because hygiene is hygiene on the inside as well as the outside. And I believe you're a church man, Quentin. And there's that old phrase, isn't there? What would Jesus do? How would he look at Tommy? Well, he certainly wouldn't sneer down his nose and say he's a less than hygienic fellow, would he? But there lies the problem, you see. Quentin, when you're insulting Tommy Robinson, and the British establishment better get used to this, because this isn't going away. This isn't going away. This is a fact. When any of you scumbags are insulting Tommy Robinson, what you are doing by default is insulting every working class English, Scottish, Welsh, Northern Irish, patriotic working class person of all racial backgrounds, all colours. That's what you're doing when you're attacking Tommy. Because if you'd have looked at that crowd in Whitehall, that crowd was not all white people. It was a mix. But what it was, every single person there was patriotic. And every single person there was working class. And when I'm talking about working class, I'm talking about people that have done a graft for a living. People that have had it hard and have had to work to get whatever they've got. That's the sort of people that are in those crowds. Not the privileged few that have been to their prep schools, their boarding schools, their elite universities, and have lived in that bubble all their lives, and they think they understand what we want. You know nothing about us. You know nothing about Tommy Robinson. And if anything is less than hygienic, it's the scumbags and the traitors in Whitehall that have been betraying us and selling us out for the past 40, 50 years. Your lot, Quentin, your mob, your mates, your chums that you go and have pims with in the House of Commons bar. That's what's not hygienic. The way this country has been run is not hygienic. It's disgusting, and it's got to change. So Quentin, you let yourself down. You let yourself down. You're a disgrace to your profession. Tommy is 10 times the journalist you are, and you have totally alienated the British working class. Well done, because not only did you totally alienate the British working class, but Tugendhat, probably one of your pals, I would imagine. Is it Tom Tugendhat, ex-army officer? Because we all know that army officers really respect the working class. Well, we know that's not true. They tolerate the men in their platoons, and it's a little stepping stone for them to get up a ladder. Tom Tugendhat making sneering comments about our celebration on the 23rd. That is one of the best celebrations, demonstrations, whatever you want to call it, that I've been to. The atmosphere was absolutely electric. The people behaved impeccably. The only people to let the side down were the Metropolitan Police and the elitists in the media and the elitists like you, Quentin. So Quentin, you're the one that is less than hygienic. You're the one that needs to go and get a bath and a shower on the inside and the outside. Hang your head in shame. See you all soon.